G'day folks, it's Cortezerino. I've got a bit of a different video for you today. See, I'm actually making this for a couple of buddies of mine, but then I thought, well, I might as well just share it with all of you. See, my friends have just started using the replay mod, and I was typing away trying to explain to them a little strategy I use to get really complicated shots where the camera's flying all around a build, but the camera still stays nice and smooth. Like you've probably seen in some people's videos where they're using the replay mod, the camera sort of speeds up and slows down and then suddenly changes direction. This is just a step-by-step strategy I use to basically avoid that, so you can get your complicated shots without having to worry about all that nonsense, and you can get it done really quick. So before we start, if you don't have the replay mod, if you've never used it but you want to, I'll put a link in the description to a YouTube video that I used when I was installing it for the first time. It's really good. The guy's got all the links you'll need, but it's particularly good with this file called ffmpeg. I always say that wrong. So he has a really good way of installing it. Like you watch some tutorials and they're basically wanting you to do some programming to get it to run. But basically what he says in his, like he's got the link to download I'm not even going to say it, the file. So basically what you do is you press your window key and the R key and you'll bring up this little thing here and you type in %appdata%. Once you've typed it in once, it tends to always stay there. Mine does. And if you hit enter, you can get this .minecraft folder. So I'm just going to double click there. And here's the file we're talking about. So when you get it from him, it'll have this title plus I think a whole lot of numbers and letters. All you do is you change the name to just this and you drop it into this .minecraft folder. See, mine's just sitting right there and that's all you need to do. So if you've watched other videos and you can't get this to work, it is as simple as that. But he'll explain in his video. So that's enough of that. Let's show you my little technique. So here's the main screen of the replay mod, and I've already shot my video, so we're just going to go to replay viewer. And here's my video. It's of a windmill. It goes for 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I'm just going to double click on that and we'll bring it up. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press the letter T and then I'm going to pause up here. Then I'm going to press escape and we're going to be able to move around. So basically when you press T, it makes your cursor so you can move it around and control things. When you press escape, it allows the camera to move around. So T and escape are pretty much the only keys you need to remember. So the very first thing I would say is when you make a replay mod video, you only want to add 2 time keyframes. And what that means is, so up the top here, we've got the timeline of the video that I shot. That's the 1 hour and 10 minute long video. You can see it goes for 70 minutes there. And this is the timeline of the video we're making. So what I want to do is we're at the start of our video here, and we're at the start here. So I'm going to add a time keyframe. So that means we're going to begin the video we're making at the time where this is up here. So I'm now going to skip this right to the end of the video I shot. And once it loads up, we'll see my completed build. There we go. So I've built a little windmill here. So now I'm going to press T again, and I'm going to make this video 2.5 minutes long. So we'll come over here to 2.5 minutes, and I'm going to add another time keyframe. And they're the only 2 I'm going to use. I'm not going to use any other than that. Now you can check that it's the speed you want. Your guy might be building too fast or too slow. So before we can actually preview this, like if I press play here, it's going to say you need 2 position keyframes. So what we can do is we'll just say, well, in both spots we are where we are now. So we're going to add a position keyframe there. You can see him appear up the top. And another one over here, and we can preview the guy building. I'll just preview it from the middle. So there I am. I like to have my guy building pretty quick, and yep, I think that looks pretty good. So we'll stick with the 2.5 minute time period. Now you want to adjust your perspective before we go any further. You see how tiny that build looks? So it's really small in the middle of our frame here, and we've got all this wasted space. We don't want that. So you press escape a couple of times, go to options. I like to play Minecraft with my point of view here at 86, but when you're doing a replay mod video, you want to be anywhere between 30 and at the max, I'd say 55, but always start at the closest in because it looks much more cinematic. There we go. Look how big that is. It's taking up much more of the frame, and it definitely looks a lot better, but sometimes you won't be able to use 30, but you could go up to 55, but I wouldn't go any further than 55. So I'm just going to delete these two position keyframes. So I'm just going to click on them and press delete, click that, press delete, and we're going to start putting in some new ones. Now if I start putting them in every 10 seconds or so, we're going to get jerky camera movements. With the replay mod, the longer the gap is between putting in a new position keyframe, the smoother the curve of the camera is going to be. So I like to set them at regular intervals. So I'm going to do a new keyframe every 30 seconds, and that's going to be my 2 steps. So I'm going to be putting keyframes every 15 seconds, but what I'm going to do first is go forward 2 steps and then come back and do the 15 one. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. So first of all, at this 30 seconds, well, I better put 2 position keyframes back in so we can actually do a preview here. So I'm just going to do a preview, get to 30 seconds. Whoop. Here we go. I'll pause it on 30 seconds and I'll see what's actually been built. Okay, so I can press escape now and I'm able to move around. So that's what I've built so far after 30 seconds. So I want to get a bit of an idea of where my beginning camera is going to be. So I'll probably start my shot right about here. What I'm looking for here is to get all of this in frame without too much wasted space. Like I wouldn't want it to look like this where you've got all this sky up the top. Looks horrible. So we want to get that as our first one. So I'm going to delete these 2 keyframes I put in just so I could do the preview. And we'll begin the video here. And after 30 seconds, I want the camera to move from where I've got it now, 90 degrees around the build, probably to about here. So we'll get that in the center again. And we'll add in the next keyframe. Now, if I press escape, we can see this line between the 2 keyframes that I've made. That's the distance, well, that's where the camera is going to go. That's the camera path. So what I won't do is go right to the middle and like, oh yeah, this is about right. And then go to 15 here and put in my new position because you're going to get jerky camera angles when you do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let the preview run until we get to 15 seconds. I'm going to pause it when it gets to 15 seconds. So I know where the camera wants to be. Yep, that's right on. So the camera wants to be here. But look at this, we're not in shot anymore. Half the build's cut off and we've got all this wasted space up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the most minimal adjustments I possibly can just to get this all back in shot. So there we go. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put in a keyframe there. Now we can preview the arc of this camera. And hopefully, because I made such a minimal adjustment, everything's going to run pretty smoothly on this 30-second arc, but I'm going to be able to keep everything in shot. So it's looking pretty good so far. I may have to make a couple of adjustments, but we'll see. It's looking pretty good. What I might do for this keyframe here is we seem to be just come out a little bit too far, I think. So what I might do is just press escape and we'll zoom in a bit there. Just get it all nice and in the middle of the camera shot. And I'll click that. I'll delete that keyframe and replace it. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to skip ahead another 2 steps. So we'll be another 30 seconds up to a minute. So I'm just going to play this until we get to a minute and I'll see what's been built. Yes, we've got lots more. So now I'm going to spin around another 90 degrees around the build and try and get all the new stuff that we just put in the shot. So I think that's a good spot. We'll put that there. So we've gone out 2 steps forward. Now we're going to go a step back and stop the camera on 45 seconds and make some adjustments. So I think it's about there. Is that it? No, 1 more second. There we go. So that's not too bad, but we're not getting a lot. So I might back off a little bit from that shot. Okay, there we go. Let's have a look at what this looks like. So don't spend hours and hours going over this, but you want to get a bit of a view of what you're recording here. So if you are cutting off most, we're going to cut off some of the build here because we're staying in nice and close, but we want to make sure we're getting everything that's being newly built here. And that's not too bad. I think we're looking down a bit too much here, so I might back off slightly and come down a little bit and just run around making tiny little adjustments like this and checking back on it, making sure everything's okay. But the camera is looking pretty smooth. This one here, I might drop this back a little bit as well. So the trick is just tiny adjustments, guys. Okay, you're getting the idea. Let's do one more of these. We'll skip ahead in the video another 30 seconds and here's something. This is where we're doing the windmill itself. So if we spin around another 90 degrees, then this isn't a very good shot. We're cutting most of it out of the frame, so we need to back off a fair bit. But now what you'll notice is if I go from this spot here, or my previous spot, all the way 90 degrees out this way and back off, the camera's got to speed up to cover that distance in a 30-second time period. So I'm not going to go quite 90 degrees on this one. I'm going to probably go about 70 degrees around the building. We'll add a keyframe there. And once again, we've taken out 2 steps forward. We're going to come back, stop it on this point that's halfway through the 15-second mark. We'll go one more. So here we go. I've got all this blank space over here. This thing isn't in the center of the frame, so I'm just going to adjust it so we're getting that right in the center. Add a keyframe, and let's see how that looks. So not bad. We're not cutting anything off just yet. So we're looking to see if the camera speeds up incredibly as we start moving further away from the building, but no, everything's still looking pretty smooth. Everything's in shot. We're going to lose some of the edges of this windmill sail as we're building it, but because we're backing off from the building now, we are getting most of it, so that's not too bad. Alrighty guys, so I went ahead and finished off my camera path. And you'll see I actually started twisting around a little bit here so I could get in the fields as I was planting those. And that's fine, you can move all over the place as long as you stick to this system of having position markers at regular intervals. You can really avoid that speeding up and slowing down and really jerky camera movements. You'll also notice every green point I've got here is one of these markers, and they're all about the same distance apart. Now that comes with a bit of experience just using the replay mod. You move yourself at about the same distance every time. So each of these is 15 seconds, and that's how I'm avoiding the camera speeding up too much. So if the camera had to move like this sort of distance, and then in the next 15 seconds had to move all the way from here up to here, that's when you're going to get your really fast movements. So just remember guys, pick a time frame. 30 seconds is good. You can do 20 seconds. It's a bit harder. So I like to go 30 seconds, get that first big arc in, and then come back to that 15-second point. Play the video, pause it on 15 seconds so you know exactly where your guy is, and just make the tiniest of adjustments possible to get everything in the camera frame that you want, so you're not sort of looking off in the wrong direction and your build's off here, over here to one side. And if you only make a small correction, you can get everything in the frame right in the center without interfering with the natural arc of the camera. So it's 2 steps forwards and then 1 step back, make a correction, then 2 steps forward, then come back and make the little correction. And then once you're done, so do that pretty quickly, because the last thing you want to do is do an entire video up to the last little bit and then find out, oh, actually this isn't going to work, and have to redo everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run it through again, making tiny little adjustments, but only where I've already got these markers, just to make sure I've got everything in frame where I want it. See, that was a bit of a jerky movement there, so I might want to adjust this last shot. And I always like to finish on a bit of a fade out here of the entire build. So I'm just going to go around, make a few tiny little corrections, nothing major, and then we'll render this sucker. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was a little bit helpful, but leave me any questions in the comments and I'll get back to you. Cheers, I'm Cortezerino. See you later.